A Christmas present for Mother. There was one little prince whose mother, the queen, was sick. All summer she lay in bed, and everything was kept quiet in the palace. But when the autumn came, she grew better. Every day brought color to her cheeks, and the little prince was allowed to go into her room and stand beside her bed to talk to her. He was very glad, for he wanted to ask her what she should like for a Christmas present, and as soon as he had kissed her and laid his cheek against hers, he whispered his question in her ear. "What should I like for a Christmas present?" said the queen. A smile and a kiss and a hug round the neck. They were the dearest gift I know. But the prince was not satisfied with this answer. "Smiles and kisses and hugs you can have every day," he said, "but see, if you could choose the thing you want most in the world, what would you take?" So the queen thought and thought, and at last she said, "A little jar of rosemary like the one that bloomed in my mother's window when I was a little girl." The little prince was delighted to hear this, and as soon as he had gone out of the queen's room, he sent a servant to his father's greenhouses to inquire for a rosemary plant, but the servant came back with disappointing news. There were carnation pinks in the king's greenhouses, and roses with golden hearts and lovely lilies, but there was no rosemary. Rosemary was a simple herb that grew mostly in country gardens, so the king's gardener said, "Then I'll go into the country field," said the little prince. "No matter where it grows, my mother must have it for a Christmas present." So messengers went into the country, here, there, and everywhere to seek the plant, but each one came back with the same story to tell. There was rosemary in the spring, but the frost had been in the country, and there was not a green spring left to bring to the little prince for his mother's Christmas present. 2 days before Christmas, however, news was brought that rosemary had been found and lovely green plant growing in a jar, right in the every city where the prince himself lived. "But where is it?" said he. "Why have you not brought it with you? Go and get it at once." There is little difficulty. The old woman to whom the rosemary belongs didn't want to sell it, even though I offered her a handful of silver for it. "Then give her a purse of gold," said the little prince. So a purse filled so full of gold that it could not hold another piece was taken to the old woman, but it was brought back. She wouldn't sell her rosemary, no, not even for a purse of gold. "Perhaps if your little kindness would go herself and ask her, they might change her mind," said the princess. Nurse saw the royal carriage drawn by 6 white horses was brought, and the little prince and his servant rode away to the old woman's house, and when they got the first thing they spied was a little green planet just standing in the old woman's window. The old woman herself came to the door, and she was glad to see the little prince. She wanted him in and gave him a cookie to eat. She had a little grandson, no older one than the prince, but he was sick and couldn't run about and play like their other children. They lay in a little white bed, the old woman's room, and the little prince spoke to him and took out his favorite toy, which he always carried in his pocket. He showed it to him. The prince's favorite toy was a ball which was like no other balls that had ever been made. It was a woven of a magic star, as bright as the sunlight, as sparkling as the starlight, and as golden as the moon at harvest time. And when the little prince threw it into the air or burst on the floor or turned it in his hands, it rang like a chime of silver bells. And the sick child loved to hear it and held out his hands for it. And the prince let it hold it, which pleased the grandmother as much as the child. But she would not sell the rosemary, and she had brought it from the home where she had lived when her little grandson's father was a boy, she said, and she hoped to keep it till she died. So the prince and his servants had to go home without. When they left, the sick child began to talk of the wonderful ball. If I had such a ball, he said, I would be happy all the day. You may as well wish for the moon in the sky, said his grandmother, but she thought of what he said, and in the evening when he was asleep, she put her shawl round him and took him the jar of rosemary. With her, she hastened to the king's palace. Silver brought food and wine. The rosemary, she said when she saw him, but if you will give me the golden bowl for my little grandchild, then I have them. And but my bowl is the most wonderful bowl. What was a handmade glass lily promised, and it was my favorite. I think I wouldn't give it away forever. And so the old woman had to go home with her jar of rosemary under the shawl. The next day was the day before Christmas, and there was a great stir and bustle in the palace. The queen's physician had said that she might sit up to see the Christmas tree that night and have her present with the rest of the family. And everyone was aligned to get things ready for her. The queen had so many presents, so the Christmas tree couldn't hold them all, so they were put on the table before the throne. The little prince cried it put his gift, which was a jewel, among them. She wanted the jar of rosemary, she said, as he looked at the glittering heap. He thought of many times a day, and once when he was playing with his ball, he said to nurse, if I had a rosemary plant I'd be willing to sell it for a purse full of gold, wouldn't he? Indeed, yes, said the nurse, and so would anyone else in his right senses. You may be sure of that. I wish it was plain. It is easier to get rosemary than it is not. The little highness is like the king's bird that knows but one word. With your rosemary, 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 said the nurse, who was a little out of fashion by the time Her Majesty's Queen only asked for it to please you. You may be sure of that. But the prince was not sure, and when the nurse had gone to hear dinner and was left alone, he put on his coat and taking the ball with him and skipped away from the palace and hastened toward the old woman's house. He had never been out at night, himself before, and he might have felt a little afraid had it not been for the fine stars that twinkled in the sky about him. When we show you, will show you the way, said this was to say, and he struggled on bravely in the white night, and he came to the house and knocked at the door. But the stick child had been talking about the wonderful book on evening. Did you see how it shone, Grandma, and did you hear those little bells ring? He said, and it was just that little prince knocked at the door, and the good woman left his answer low, and when he saw the prince, she was too astonished to speak. Here is the ball, he cried quickly, and dipped her hands. This gives me the Rosamond for my mother. And so it happened that when the queen sat down before her great table for 4 gifts, the first thing she spied was a jar of sweet rosamond like that which had bloomed in her mother's window when she was a little girl. I would rather have that than all the other gifts in the world, she said, and she took the prince in her arms and kissed him.